The board meeting of the Learning Center District Board will come to order. We have a quorum and want to welcome the few people who are here. You're the important people. So welcome to all of you. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Do we have any public comments for the Learning Center? No. Okay. Approval of the consent agenda, which basically consists of the minutes of the last meeting on May 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. And there are no action items removed from the consent agenda. We need to approve the Open Meeting Act resolution, which we did at the regular board meeting last month, but we need to approve that for the Learning Center Board. And that's in your packets.
Regular meetings.
It's our motion.
I'm looking for the.
It's on
How
2-1.
often- Yeah, how often are the meetings? Quarterly basis.
Yep.
Okay. I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Well, I guess I just wonder, how is this different than our standard open meetings procedures? Is there something different about this? Why do we have a special open meetings resolution for the Learning Center?
Well, for one thing, it's a different board.
Pardon?
It's a different board, for one thing.
Okay.
And secondly, I think your point about quarterly meetings as opposed to monthly meetings.
Okay.
The law requires that we do it every year. We approve an Open Meetings Act.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why we do it.
okay. All right, that answers my question.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Discussion items. Now, Megan and I talked quite a bit about this. The board members had asked for a number of things at the last meeting. The room usage report, which came to you after the board packet came to you, but you have gotten it. A 3-year revenue data report, and then there are a couple of other things. So I put these under discussion because I think you all wanted to have a discussion about these. So let's start with the comparative room usage report, which is actually the last thing in your packet.
And I'd like to apologize for not having all of the data that I needed in my presentation at the time the board packets were put together. My assistant was putting the data together. She had some technical difficulties, and so I had technical difficulties as well.
Okay, so those are in 4, I guess. No, they're in 3.2. That's a revenue report.
What section is it?
No, it's the very last thing on your in your packet for the Learning Center.
Okay.
For the room piece?
Yeah, the
Little tab on it, I think.
is it first? No, I read it.
Okay. It's here.
All right.
So I decided to take a look at how we were using rooms at the HEC based just on the first 9 months of the year. So I started the position in January, so we're just looking at the first 9 months of January, or first 9 months of 2019, and we compared those against the first 9 months of 2018. So compared to 2018, Highlands room usage was down 41%. And the reason for that is Highlands decreased the number of classrooms that they're leasing from the higher education center from 8 classrooms to 6 for the 2019-2020 academic year. Part of that is because Highlands enrollment has decreased, and we're working on strategies to see what we can do to help boost that. But part of it also seems to be a result of a change just kind of in higher education in general. We're finding that from our partners, there's less of a demand for classroom space as more and more classes are being offered online. So then they're finding less of a need to have actual occupied classroom space. And what Highlands has particularly asked us for is potentially in the future increasing their access to administrative spaces and fewer classroom spaces. So that's sort of an interesting development.
What do you mean administrative spaces?
So they want offices. They want offices for faculty to be able to be housed at the HEC in Santa Fe, for students to come and interact with their faculty for those relationships. But for actual class space, when students are given the option between attending at the HEC or attending from home, especially the late at night classes. So we have one night a week we have late classes with Highlands that go from 7 to 9:50 at night. And those classes aren't well attended live because it's a time when a lot of people who are non-traditional students need to be at home to be supporting their families or whatnot. So a lot of times we're finding those students are taking their coursework from home instead of always taking the opportunity to come to the HEC for their classes. Northern's usage in their classroom, though, is up a whole lot from last year. Although I will say, I'll qualify that by saying it's the difference from having one class in their classroom to having 3 classes in their classroom.
Right.
So a small change can make a huge impact. Also, when we were looking at events and things that were held in classrooms, Northern and Highlands have been very generous in letting Santa Fe Community College and the Higher Education Center use those spaces for events when we need them. And so there is some increase in usage just because, for example, when we had our rapid hire event with the state, we needed every possible room open at the HEC that particular day to get that event off the ground. From 2018 to 2019, Santa Fe Community College's room usage is down 20%, but the continuing education classes are up 17%. So although Santa Fe Community College is having fewer academic classes, the overall usage is kind of a wash because continuing ed is using those spaces for their classes, and that seems to be working pretty well. UNM's usage is up 100%, and again, this is one of those instances where one little class makes a huge difference. Although they don't have any dedicated classroom space at the Higher Education Center as of today, as part of our MOU with our BSN program and the MOU that we have at the Higher Education Center, last year UNM had a level 5 nursing class at the HEC, and so that was 100% usage for UNM's classes. And we'll see this further in the presentation, we have big opportunities to partner with UNM going forward, and so we're making pathways into that opportunity. But overall, in room usage, there was a 10% increase in classroom usage by our partners in 2019, and we have a little graph here that shows some of that. And so it shows the NMHU is down. Again, Northern's is way up, but again, that's just because they have more classes offered. Those classes are also online classes, so I wouldn't say that we necessarily have Northern students coming to the HEC, but we do have their instructors, and we're hoping to increase their engagement with us at the HEC.
So wait, so Northern is not having live classes?
They're not having live classes. They're online classes, but their instructor comes into the class, and that's something that I think we need to explore and work on. Highlands being our anchor partner, they have invested in the Higher Education Center. They've brought in their own infrastructure. Northern and UNM are a little bit different, and I don't think we have had the opportunity to really think through all of the details of what it means to fully support these other institutions. So for example, with Northern, their instructor comes into the classroom, but the technology is all Santa Fe Community College technology. So we need to get that instructor an SFCC username and password. If that instructor needs anything special, he ends up looking to us and not the folks at Northern for that tech support. However, under the MOA, he really should be going to Northern for that tech support. But Northern hasn't invested in the infrastructure to actually put their own internet and their own technology into their own classroom. So we have stumbled upon some of these gray areas that as we grow, we need to explore in more detail what does it really mean to support our partners and at what level of engagement. So if we have one partner, such as Northern, that says, I just want one classroom, and we're not sure where we want to go with it, what do we ask them to invest into the building, and what do we want to offer them in return? Whereas Highlands really is kind of a independent tenant, where they're not relying on us for that
Let
infrastructure.
me understand. The instructor actually travels to Santa Fe
Correct.
to teach the class.
Correct.
And it's not a hybrid class. It's not a class where,
Not a hybrid
where students could come into the classroom if they wanted to.
They could come to the classroom if they wanted to, but we haven't found the students are doing that. So far with Northern, I've seen one Northern student come to the HEC to attend a class.
So are these like live videos?
Correct. It's the Zoom synchronous classes.
And so Highlands has their own internet
They do.
installed in the.
They do. They have their own wireless network. They have their own mechanical rooms. They have all of their own infrastructure. And when something goes sideways with their technology, it's Highlands that goes and fixes it.
But that seems like a lot to ask for partners who are not doing much.
Precisely. And so, again, it's something that I'll be developing as we proceed and we develop these partnerships, because I think it's something that we haven't really had to untangle all the knots around yet. But in order to be able to provide the best support for our partners, we need to clarify our vision and also help them clarify theirs. So I think that's part of the other problem that we come across with Northern, is they're still trying to figure out how the HEC works into their strategic plan.
Well, why would they come here to do a class that no one comes to?
I,
Don't they do that from one of their
Wherever they are.
classrooms?
I would say that that is a good faith gesture on their behalf, as a willingness to participate, because it is part of our programming and has been since the beginning of the Higher Education Center, that they would offer specific programs through the Higher Education Center. I think what especially in the case of Northern, is that
Trying to get our students? Is that why they're doing it here? Or-
they do want to recruit our students into their four-year programs, but they're also, I believe, looking at Santa Fe to look at recruitment for graduating high school seniors, and looking at those markets. And yeah, just trying to find pipelines to their programs.
Do they advertise their classes as being potentially face-to-face?
They advertise them all as online classes, the ones that are offered through the Higher Education
So
Center.
they only is online.
That's correct.
So if they were, they might get more students if they did both.
If they did a hybrid model, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Other questions that you have for the, so much data, as much data as she's put
What-
for us?
What sort of capacity, if for example, looking at what Highlands is doing and what everyone else other than Highlands is doing, what sort of capacity do we have to have, do we have the technology in multiple rooms simultaneously?
So we have a standard IT setup for the classrooms for Santa Fe Community College. So every classroom has a computer lectern with access to the internet, a speaker, projector, whiteboard, and screen. And that kind of basic setup is available in every classroom. Highlands, for example, because they do so many classes by Zoom, they have brought in a lot of extra video infrastructure to support those hybrid type classes, because sometimes the instructor's in Las Vegas or they're in Albuquerque, but the students do come to the Higher Education Center for class. And
Right.
so their technology setup is significantly different from what we have at Santa Fe Community College. I would say that as we proceed in developing our online programming, that we also need to think carefully about including the technology requirements for successful online programming in our budgeting and in our course planning, because it's, I think, easy to perhaps overlook that piece, but there's a lot that goes into it, and if you want to do it successfully and you want to create an environment where it's easy for students to come and take advantage of a hybrid opportunity, the technology really needs to work well. So I would say that going forward in the future, the Higher Education Center in particular would need to look very carefully about upgrading our technology to better accommodate online classes.
Also, would you just follow up a little bit on your comment earlier about the demand for office space?
Correct.
What's been happening there?
Again, I think it's students, the basis of all of our work really does end up being all about relationship. And so while students find that online coursework works well for them in terms of their lifestyles, and especially for our non-traditional students, in order to be successful in college, we need those relationships with our instructors and with our support staff to be successful. So students still want to have access to their instructors, and they want to have those opportunities to drop in for office hours and say, okay, I'm struggling with this part of the syllabus, and please help me with it.
Right.
And so the administrative space really is about providing spaces for faculty to come in and support their students.
And what sort of administrative space do we have at the HEC? And also the question of, it would seem that, for example, those office hours would be daytime hours, where oftentimes online courses, I'm assuming, are nighttime. Yeah. How does that all
So
compute?
in our administrative area, I can't remember the number of offices we have offhand in our administrative area, but right now Highlands is taken on 3 of the offices in our administrative area, and one of those offices is being used by faculty to meet with students, and they have a schedule and they rotate through that spare office. Their new student support specialist has moved into an office that they had available upstairs, and they also have an office upstairs for their social work faculty, and they have the center, the CESDP, which I can't remember what it stands for at the moment, of course, houses one of their other faculty as well. We have a bunch of small study rooms at the Higher Education Center. Those spaces could be modified to be turned into offices as we move forward.
Right.
But right now, the office space is pretty much occupied. The only unoccupied office spaces we have at the Higher Education Center are cubicle spaces in our administrative area. And just because of FERPA and other things, it doesn't wind up being a good fit for many of the administrators. We do have my assistant and a Highland student employee in the cubicle area right now, and also Ron Martinez with the CESDP.
Other
Thank you.
questions? I wanted you to comment a little bit on the, because you brought up the UNM Advising initiative that is coming up.
Sure.
How do these students get advised from the various colleges?
So we don't get a lot of walk-in traffic. So when we do get walk-in traffic, it's usually a, come on in, let's get you started. And we find whoever's available and we start them on the path. Our partners have been really great. So our goal has been that we don't want to be competing against one another to grab a student. We want to compete to do what's best for the student. And our partners have been really good at trying to identify the student's needs and saying, okay, this isn't a good fit for Bellevue, but perhaps you'd like to go talk to Highlands and see what sort of opportunities that they have. And so they actually do walk students from one advisor to the next until they get helped. If I get a student, I usually take their information, I ask them for their explicit permission to give their information to our recruiters, and then I distribute that out to all of our partners and ask them to follow up. And so any students who come by with questions, they get attention right there on the spot. And if we don't have the answers for them or an advisor for them to talk to in the moment, we get their contact information and we have the advisors follow up, because it's really not the student's job, it's our job to make sure that they get what they need.
So the UNM that's bringing a whole passel of advisors,
So
what's their goal in bringing those advisors here?
actually with the UNM Advisor Summit, and this is something that is, I can talk about more as we go through the presentation. The UNM Advisor Summit, we're actually going, SFCC is going to go to UNM for the first half. So we're bringing our advisors, and we have 5 programs that we've identified that we want to start with. But because UNM has designs on the Midtown Campus and the request for expression of interest that the city just released, we have slated a rollout of other opportunities that we want to target and iron out the wrinkles for. But one of the other things that we're trying to overcome is a long history of UNM not wanting to participate in education with their community college partners. And I think what's exciting is that UNM has gone through some changes and cultural changes, and I think there's an air of engagement that we haven't had the opportunity to take advantage of before, along with their interest in the Midtown Campus. They're not going to be successful in the Midtown Campus without us, and I'm making sure of that.
And how are you going to manage that?
Well, let's keep talking.
Okay, go ahead.
So to keep going with the room usage report, one of the things that we noticed is that we're doing way more events. So we're more than just the sum of our partners. We support the state, federal, and community groups by hosting their events. Compared to 2018 last year, the Higher Education Center has increased the number of events we've hosted by almost 45%. And I think part of that is we have, and here's a helpful graph. Part of the reason is when we had the Rapid Hire event with state personnel, we partnered, we found a great partner in the State Personnel Office. So the State Personnel Office has been a really great resource for us, and we've been doing a lot of wonderful partnerships with them.
And they pay us?
I'm sorry?
They pay us?
We do not charge state entities for use of space under our collaborative use policy. So no, they don't pay us.
Huh.
But they sure do like us. I think it's an important partnership. And so some of the exciting things that have come across.
They find jobs for our students.
Pardon me?
And they find jobs for
They find jobs for our students, and we like that. But we're also creating, again, the pathways to education are so varied. And so one of the cool opportunities that has come up with our relationship with state personnel is a partnership, again, with UNM, and they're bringing some training for state personnel officers to the Higher Education Center that I think could also end up being a really great professional development opportunity for folks here at Santa Fe Community College. So they're going to be doing a couple of classes on collaborative problem solving through design thinking. And I think that would be, well, that's in line with some of the programming that we want to bring to the Midtown Campus through the Higher Education Center as the Midtown Campus develops, but also kind of the new and shiny cool thing in problem solving that would be really good for staff and faculty to work with. So again, these opportunities kind of create other opportunities. We've hosted the FAA, Department of Health. We've had veteran service officers get training. So we're partnering with the Santa Fe Council on International Relations, and we had Jason Rezaian at the Higher Education Center talking about the year and a half he spent in Iranian prison. And so that's also opening up pathways to align some of the work that the CIR does with the work that we do here in terms of energy sovereignty and things like that. So we have all these connections, I think, that are going to grow some really interesting plants for us. Did I answer your question?
I just want to make a quick comment in terms of total numbers. So I was really floored by that number, 580. And I see that fall is definitely the season to be at the Higher Education Center, but that's amazing that in a month you've had 580 events.
And I'll qualify that by saying, so because of the way our software is set up when we're pulling out data, one event is one thing on the schedule. So it could be that state personnel had their collective bargaining meetings with us every day for a week in September, but each one of those would come out as one event. Mm-hmm. So that was what we struggled with, is I couldn't figure out how to say, well, state personnel took up X number of our event hours. So the numbers you're seeing there are individual things that occurred, but may have been grouped in a longer event or something like that. Does that make sense?
So they're basically days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is just another view of events by month. You can see that May ends up being just kind of quiet. I would say that the increase in our events from January, February, March, that was probably AARP and having the tax return service there at the Higher Education Center. Yeah, they take up a lot of space, but it's important.
And did that work out reasonably well?
I thought it worked out great, and have recommended that they come back. Thankfully, they have done away with the free-for-all tax return appointment system, which happened 2 years ago. So now anybody who comes to get their tax returns prepared has to get an appointment, If they show up without an appointment, they're scheduled for an appointment, and then they have the opportunity to leave and come back later. So part of the problems that we were discovering at the Fitness Education Center is people were showing up at 5 a.m. to wait, and we don't want that. So with the new scheduling system, it really does away with the scarcity mindset that people need to show up at 5 to get their appointment. People sign up online, they get their appointment. If they show up the day of, they see where they can work them in. Last year, I don't have the statistics with me about last year's usage, but they did more tax returns last year than they had the year before. But everything went really smoothly. And it made a difference too, just for people's mood, just knowing that they didn't have to spend,
Right.
8 hours to get their tax returns prepared. It's much more comforting for people to say, okay, I can't get help in this moment, but I'm going to come back tomorrow or in 2 hours and get my tax returns done then. So, and knowing how passionate people are about the Fitness Education Center and the parking there, it just eliminates a lot of the strong feelings that,
Right.
that happen when.
I know about that because I
fitness.
work out at the fitness education. Every year, there are a couple of people who come up to me and complain
No.
about the
We're
parking
happy to
lot.
have them back.
Farther to the fitness center.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe get a few more steps in.
Plus, I think it's a nice way to bring the HEC into the mindset of the community.
Correct.
It's easier for a lot of people to access, and I'm hoping that the longer that we have it there, the less I'll hear, oh, I had no idea that you were here.
Right.
We're going to have, oh yeah, we know you're here, and we know exactly what you're here for. So we're working on it.
Good.
So the next part of the report is on the revenue. You had also asked for some revenue data, and Megan has prepared a 3-year review for this. And again, if you had, let's have a conversation rather than waiting for the entire session before you can ask questions. So let's.
So one of the questions that Board Member Sullivan had asked, I believe at my first Learning Center District Board meeting was, what is our purpose? Are we here to make money? What are we here to do? So we're just to say we're in the public service section of the Santa Fe Community College budget. So we're not in a profit center. And so our focus is to bridge student success and to provide support to the community. So I'd say we're doing that, but are we charging people for that space? Not a lot of the time, because we're focusing on our community partnerships and our community relationships. We've had a couple of nice opportunities last year. The Tiger Woods Foundation came and spent some time with us, and that was a wonderful opportunity. But those don't come along very often. So I would ask the Learning Center District Board, as your purview and as board members, to also think about this question and help me decide exactly what it is that the HEC should be doing. That being said, though, I think we're doing not too bad. In the last 3 years, fiscal year 18 was the most challenging, and SFCC had to transfer over $38,000 to cover the HEC's budget shortfall. For fiscal year 19, SFCC had projected a transfer of $42,000, but the actual amount transferred was only $860. Revenues increased by $12,000 from fiscal year 18, and our expenses decreased by $25,000.
Wow.
So we had some nice events. We had a little bit of a decrease in our expenditures. This year, I expect our expenditures will be up again because we're doing a lot of outreach and a lot of relationship building with our partners. We have a big event scheduled for the end of October for the HEC FAFSA Rodeo. And so some of these things, as they come together, have some price tags attached to them. But here you can see the numbers, and Amy Tilley had helped me with these. So as you can see, for fiscal year 19, our revenues were $157,000. Our total expenses were $158,000, which meant $859.95 needed to be transferred to help us break even. And that's the goal of the HEC, is to break even. We're not a profit center.
Questions?
I'm just thinking back to when we were sold the idea of the Higher Education Center, and I don't recall that it was to be a profit center, but it was certainly not to be a loss center.
True.
Lost leader.
Yeah, and I think we overestimated the desire of four-year colleges and universities to come and share a place with a community college. And there was the period of time when they all went to different towns and built their own education centers. And New Mexico State Highlands is the one who left Albuquerque. They had to shut theirs down. But I think it's worth further conversation about what it is we see now, knowing the environment that we know now, that there isn't that enthusiasm. There isn't pressure from the higher education department to say you need to be collaborating more with other colleges. And so now is not the time, but I do think we need to have that conversation.
But I think it's also dependent on the drop in enrollment across the board. So everybody's dropping enrollment, and that makes a difference. I also think it has something to do with the promotion from the colleges about what programs are, I don't think the colleges have done enough outreach and enough survey to figure out what programs would be most profitable in terms of getting students in Santa Fe. So, when they...
But the other colleges haven't done that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they bring a program that maybe is failing there, and then say, well, let's see if it works here, rather than thinking about, okay, if there is enormous demand for a technology program, let's see how we do that. Or there's enormous demand for a business, certification. Let's do that. So it seems to me that part of it has to do with engaging our partners in designing what is it that is most, and bring your most profitable programs. Don't bring the ones that are failing, bring the ones that are really doing well, because that's where you're going to attract more students. So it's, it's kind of...
Well, and look, okay, what does the workforce need in Santa Fe? Here's Santa Fe Community College offering these associate degrees. Can you offer a bachelor's that'll get them a job in Santa Fe?
Exactly.
I think in the picture sense, we do have an incredible opportunity right now with Governor Lujan Grisham's announcement of the Opportunity Scholarship. And she asked, and in her higher ed summit meeting, she asked the four-year colleges to change the way that they access partnerships. And I really feel that the Higher Education Center is at the forefront of a new way to do education in the United States, a new way to access higher education. And we have the opportunity to promote ourselves as the way that we're going to get access to education to every single citizen of New Mexico. And instead of waiting for the students to come to us, we don't have that luxury anymore. Our enrollments are down across the board. So we have to go to them. And we do that through partnerships. And we do that through our partnerships with UNM. We'll do those through our partnerships with Northern and with Highlands. And we will make access available to students all the way through Northern New Mexico. And I think that's only going to be possible through partnership. But again, we have to help our partners understand what the vision is. And I think we haven't ourselves really thought about what our vision is. And as we get clearer on where we want to go, then we can also help our partners decide where they need to be also.
George, you
Well,
have...
certainly, all of this just lends itself to start talking about Midtown Campus.
It's my favorite.
Yes, and I know you were going to include that, and I'll let you talk first, and then we can maybe have some more.
Madam Chair, before we move on, just a quick, I just want to bring up a concern that I don't think it's not about us marketing, but I think, Megan, you have pinpointed for me what the issue is. Online education, which is something that we really hadn't thought about, and the boom in that happening like it has. And what I hear you saying is students are voting with their feet. They have the opportunity to take in-person classes at the Higher Education Center, and they choose not to do it because it's much more convenient to walk into your spare bedroom and get on your computer and engage with a professor. So
Always do it. They do it sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, they're voting with their feet when we have a class there and only one student shows up from Northern and 3 classes are being offered. I hear you saying that. And I think maybe that we need to rethink, as we rethink and envision how the higher education center serves our population, that we focus on that the reality of the world has changed. We now have online classes available, and we have students who find that much more convenient. So how do we best use the higher education center to leverage that, or to reach out to students that model doesn't work for?
So that might mean more technology, infrastructure.
I think Highlands does a really good job with their social work program, and that's a hybrid program. And I think it meets students' needs because it gives them that opportunity to do classes on their own time. But because it's a cohort model and it's a hybrid model, they still are brought together, forced to come together. But they create those relationships with one another within their cohort and in their time at the HEC, and they do end up becoming attached and engaged to the place. And so the hybrid model is a rich area for us to explore.
Was there another comment?
I just want to make one comment on the Midtown Campus, that I finally realized why no one was paying attention to Santa Fe Community College, because no one knows the higher education center is Santa Fe Community College's. People have said that, oh, that's yours? So we just assumed, but there's nothing that indicates that it's ours.
Yeah, the logo's not shared, and I get that a lot. So you're a what?
Who are you? Yeah.
So you're a Santa Fe Community College employee? Yes, yes, I am. So anyway, I think that's definitely something we can
Pay
promote.
attention to. Okay.
So the City of Santa Fe released their request for expression of interest for the Midtown Campus, and we have identified that we need to participate as part of as a major strategic priority. And at this point, we've identified an opportunity to create the Santa Fe Higher Education and Innovative Industry Compound. So the idea is that we would like to bring our Innovation Center, which is currently in our Trades and Advanced Technology area, along with the Santa Fe Fab Lab, bring that out and create a new building next to the Higher Education Center. That new building would be a nexus for emerging technologies and entrepreneurship. And so we see some opportunities with some of the initiatives that the city's come up with, the lean manufacturing, the new Karen Egolf initiative with the food manufacturing. There's a lot of opportunity around there. UNM's proposal, so UNM will be submitting a proposal for the Midtown Campus. UNM had the opportunity to kind of craft the request with Matt Brown, who is the former City of Santa Fe economic developer, who is now moved on. So UNM has had sort of a finger in the pot since the get-go that we haven't necessarily had. But again, I think it's a great opportunity for us to engage UNM in this new kind of partnership. So where we have this new engagement is to develop programming in parallel and in partnerships where UNM can do, they still have this vision of an HEC Mark II, but they want it to be more of a name brand sort of HEC, and UNM would be the steward of it. But I think what the failing of Matt Brown's vision was, his vision was, we're gonna fix New Mexico by bringing people from the outside. And I think what UNM has since come to understand is that's not a solution, because students who come from the outside who don't have jobs or anything to sustain them here in New Mexico aren't gonna stay. And so it doesn't solve any of our problems. And what we need to do is address the people of New Mexico. So I think UNM is shifting their focus and sees the value of partnering with Santa Fe Community College and using that partnership so that students can get their 2-year degrees here at SFCC and then move on to get their 4-year degree through UNM or Northern or Highlands and accomplish these things. This is my dream, is that students can accomplish a bachelor's degree with less than $15,000 in student loan debt. If we can graduate students with a bachelor's degree and less than $15,000 in student loan debt, every single one of those students is going to be successful. When students start accruing, right now, just so you know, there's over $7 billion of student loan debt in New Mexico, and the average student loan debt per student is about $30,000 per student. I could not have gone to college without my student loans. They made my college education possible. And so I'm extremely grateful for them. I didn't borrow boatloads of money. I think it was under $50,000, but it still took me over 20 years to pay that off. So a student in New Mexico with $30,000 of student loan debt and maybe not a whole lot of income, that's a lot. And with the options to get out from student loan debt becoming fewer and fewer, with the public loan service forgiveness program being literally impossible to get through, we will be helping our students when we help them graduate without student loan debt. The more debt they get, the more indentured they are to their education, and we're not creating solutions that way.
So-
I'm off my soapbox, sorry.
So Megan, do you want to talk a little bit about, or are you still, okay, you're still talking about, go ahead. I'll wait until you finish your,
So
Presentation.
we would create a new building and that would house the Innovation Center, and we would also have adaptable interdisciplinary learning spaces. So we want to target opportunities around design, architecture, virtual reality, and augmented reality. So architecture, for example, they're doing a lot of really interesting things with augmented reality as part of the design process for architecture. And so how do we engage in those technologies and create opportunities for students, especially non-traditional students, to kind of get a taste of different things before they commit. So one of the things we've discovered working with Tim Castillo with UNM is our architecture students, they go, okay, I want to be an architecture student, but they don't have any previous experience with design. And we found that it would be really useful if we could create a survey class around design to let students try out a couple of different methodologies before they have to jump right into formal architecture classes. And this gives students a chance to test their strengths. It also gives us the opportunity to sneak the math in without them noticing that we're doing that. And helps us get around some of those internal barriers that our students get. Oh, I can't do math, so I'm not going to participate in school. We can all do math. It's just we're not always willing participants in that. But so we do have these opportunities to create new educational pathways. I also feel like we need to be able to grow into the future as the Midtown Campus develops. And so we need, if we're talking about new land holdings, we need to have enough padding that allows us to respond to the needs of the Midtown Campus. Right now, from UNM and other people that I've talked to, none of our partners right now are thinking about childcare at the Midtown Campus. So there are education opportunities, people want to bring in industry, they want to bring in food and all kinds of stuff, but without childcare, it doesn't really make sense, and that is a need throughout our community. So finding affordable childcare, making that opportunity available at the Midtown Campus would be a profound opportunity for the Santa Fe Community College, but also for the other partnerships that evolve there.
So is that part of the Santa Fe design? The Santa Fe campus, the whole city design?
Meaning, does the city have?
Yeah,
No, that's.
No, everybody's saying, oh, we need this, but nobody has come up and said, we will volunteer and do this, or we're going to step up and address this need. I'm saying we should have enough so we can build our innovation center, enough land holdings so we build our innovation center, but we have enough left over so that as buildings come in, as that Midtown Campus gets developed, because there's still so much that we don't know. The city hasn't done any environmental studies. The city has not done any appraisals on those buildings. So there are a lot of exciting mysteries that are going to be uncovered, and we don't know how those will impact the development of the Midtown Campus. But as the Midtown Campus gets developed, I think it's an opportunity for Santa Fe Community College to be present and be addressing the needs of the community. And one of the things that we do really well through our Child Care Center of
Yeah,
Excellence.
but I guess my question is, has that idea been planted?
Yes.
Is anybody talking about, we need a childcare center and the community college would be the perfect place to do it?
So we recently had a discussion so moving on here. So part of the problem with submitting our own request for expression of interest is there's a whole lot of data that goes into that RFEI, and we're just not prepared to answer all of those questions as of today. So we've been invited to participate in a Master Developer RFEI with KDC. KDC is a developer out of Texas, and they are submitting a master plan as part of the RFEI. So by participating with them, we're eliminating having to answer every single section of the RFEI, But even if they're not selected as by the city as being their go-to person, our proposal is still in the mix. So even if KDC isn't selected, Santa Fe Community's proposal is still in the mix, and we can still partner with whoever the city identifies as their primary partner. But KDC seems to be the folks who have done the most groundwork. They've been working on this for a while. They've identified a lot of partners, and we feel it's going to be a stronger proposal by partnering with them because they have a lot of this already set up, and we will just kind of join in with that. It eliminates some of the pressure for us in terms of what we need to get prepared, but still makes certain that we have our foot in the door where we need to.
You'll have access to their data and. Okay.
Correct, and they will be doing their own partnering and connecting people with partners. UNM is also working with KDC, even though they're going to submit their own separate RFEI. They have already agreed that if KDC, wins the RFEI, that UNM will partner with them. So the Santa Fe Fab Lab has also decided to partner with KDC. And so we think this is a good way for us to get our proposal in without necessarily having to answer every single question under the RFEI.
So are there,
George, you have-
I keep wanting to say something, but I see you have more. Well, you have more to say, so I don't want to cut you off. I want to, when you get to the end, I want to ask some questions.
Okay, yeah, that's it. That was the end. That's my last Midtown Campus slide.
Okay. So are there other developers? Why KDC?
KDC has the biggest proposal. So one of the things that's super attractive about KDC is they have a very robust proposal, and they seem to have what the city wants, which is, here, city, we'll take all of this off your hands for you. We'll just pay you a big pile of money, and we'll take care of the rest. So they have the resources and the partnerships locked up already that makes that kind of tied up with a pretty ribbon. The other developers that we've talked with don't seem to have such a wide-reaching proposal. So KDC seems to be agile enough to be able to do lots of different things in lots of different ways. And
Right.
so as we haven't had tons of discussions, but it's been pretty open. Okay, well, if you want to buy the land from us, you can do that. If you want to lease the land, you can do that. We'll talk about these things. So everything, I would say everything with the Midtown Campus, especially with the city, remains squishy.
Sure.
Nothing is fully
Sure.
developed yet, and
Yeah.
they're just sort of looking to see what sorts of ideas are going to rise to the surface.
Right.
But I personally believe that the city's goal is to get the management of that property off of their
Out
hands.
of their
as quickly
hands,
as possible.
right. And the business of, to what extent the proposal that Santa Fe Community College would present to KDC, are they just saying to us, you just tell us what you want, or is there some sort of back and forth with them regarding the kinds of things that we would have in our proposal?
I think it's still very early and it's still very much in the courtship phase. And so at the moment, the messaging that we're getting is very much, if you want a unicorn, we'll give you a unicorn. So those things will be developed over time, and we'll have to see how those things change, especially once the deadline hits and when we see who the city selects.
And the deadline is the end of October.
End of October. And right now, the city has said they're not planning on extending that deadline, if at all possible. And I don't have a handle on how quickly the city is hoping to make an
Right.
announcement about who they select for their
Right.
exclusivity agreement.
And if KDC, what was that?
When is their payment due? That's when they're.
Yeah, right. And if KDC would win the city's approval, what would that mean for our little piece?
That would mean that that KDC would be the exclusive master developer for the Midtown Campus, and that any plans that we make would have to be done in partnership with KDC. So we would have just made that partnership in advance of
Okay,
the bid.
right. Okay.
So is there a role that this board needs to play to strengthen your suit, to strengthen your visibility, that's whatever?
At the moment, I'm not sure, but I'm certain that I will need your help as we proceed. It's certainly in terms of clarifying the vision and helping identify how we're going to improve our outreach through northern New Mexico, how we're going to bring all of our partners with us. I think that there's some nervousness about what that looks like. I feel some of my own nervousness about partnering with UNM and making sure that we're not, swallowed by UNM, and that we maintain our uniqueness and our place in this community as anchors of the community, and that we're not just a subset, another subcampus of UNM. I think our identity needs to be maintained and preserved and championed. And so certainly your assistance in those ways will be important.
I think, Linda, you brought up the notion that we need a logo on the HEC that identifies the HEC as Santa Fe Community College. I mean, that's a fairly simple fix, I guess, but would go a long way in terms of people understanding that
The identity
yeah,
of the higher
this is
education
who we
center.
are, and the higher education center is ours.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what we need to do about that,
Oh, the president.
Madam President, but you might think about that.
No, I agree. I think that that's really important because you really can't tell from the outside.
Yeah.
And but the Midtown Campus, I mean, the Higher Education Center is part of the Midtown Campus because it's right there. And so I think that and we've talked to a couple of other of the master developers too, and the city is including us in they're going to have a meeting next month, hopefully, that will involve potential education partners, and so we're right there in their plans, and I think they know that the community of Santa Fe wants us to be part of that plan too, and so they're pretty careful about that.
But this would be a really quiet way of,
Yeah, it would be.
I mean, we don't,
It would be.
Great.
okay.
I wonder, oh,
It's your turn, George.
yes, again. I also wonder, I mean, it does seem to me that this is such a wonderful opportunity, and it's probably the kind of opportunity that it's very difficult to have a great deal of specification exactly what we want to do, where we want to do it as a community college, but it just seems like there are lots of opportunities for evolution of variety of programs. I mean, one of the ones I think about is some sort of community farm for the agricultural programs that we have here. And I'm wondering if the involvement of faculty sort of in this early stage to see if faculty also, while there's a lot of wisdom here at the board and creative ideas, there are other people who are also wise and have creative ideas. And I think it would be great if faculty could be plugged in very early in some kind of brainstorming, perhaps. And maybe you've already got that planned, but I just think it's worthwhile.
So we actually have had a couple of meetings that invited faculty and department heads in to sort of start. Part of what's so exciting about this opportunity for me is that it really is a way to make an impact on the community that's going to be long lasting. And so we have had some really wonderful discussions with our media arts faculty, with our librarian. We've had, we haven't had early childhood come yet because we're bringing them in. Luke Spangenberg from the Innovation Center. And so part of what has been really so much fun about working on this project has been that opportunity to collaborate and to have that opportunity to dream with our partners and with our fellow colleagues. So we had to kind of scale back for a little bit because the deadline, we had a great big visions, but we had this deadline. So we had to kind of tighten our vision, bring things more into focus. But again, that's why I'm saying we have an initial proposal and an initial focus, but I want to make sure that we pad so that we have this room to dream and this room to grow. And so one of the wonderful ideas, dreams that's kind of being talked about but isn't coalescing yet into any kind of reality is an idea of the Fogelson Library and turning that into a shared academic and public space. So it'd be a city library and an academic library, and like the really great overlaps and synergies that could come from that. That could be a shared resource for UNM, for Highlands, for Northern, for SFCC, and for the city. We're talking about creating the Higher Education Center and turning that whole Midtown campus into literally the corridor for higher education that comes all the way from Santa Fe Community College to Santa Fe High School, where literally all you have to do to get your degree is cross the street. And there are going to be options that reach all the way to the very borders of northern New Mexico. So that's my big idea. And I think it's possible. I think it's cool. We're having our moment. We just have to make sure we grab it. So part of this project then is this revitalization of UNM Partnerships. I'm working with Tim Castillo, who's the Associate Dean in Architecture, and he's the Special Advisor to the UNM Provost for Santa Fe Initiatives. We started our articulation agreement discussions with SFCC and the HEC around architecture and design. Although, like I said earlier, what we found is we're not quite ready to start articulating those programs yet, but we are ready to start talking about how do we make our programs align in such a way that students are coming out of SFCC and can move into UNM and be successful. So especially in terms of the architecture program, currently Jeremy Meir, our architecture instructor, he uses the UNM curriculum, but we need to work with our students a little bit more so that when they leave SFCC that they can take on everything that they want to take on at UNM, that we're providing them more opportunities about design mindset and design thinking. So we have some things to do there. And Tim is ready to come and teach UNM classes at the HEC starting in the spring. I gave UNM a contract this year that gave them a really screaming deal on one classroom. They have not, they opted just to sign their regular contract that maintain their office space, but I'm working with President Rowley and we're hoping to have a meeting with the provost soon, hopefully next week. And he's super excited about bringing these classes on. UNM's initial proposal about coming into the Midtown campus is that they'd move into the Fogelson Library and start having classes in the Fogelson Library. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why don't you come to the HEC? Start having your classes at the HEC where the building's brand new, the technology works, and we don't have any surprises lurking in the background. And then you can work on the Fogelson Library or whatever it is you're going to work on. And as things develop and come into play, you can move into those UNM, but UNM already has an established footprint at the HEC, so it's silly not to use that as the springboard.
Great.
So UNM, like I said earlier, is going to partner with KDC, but they're submitting their own independent RFEI. And I'm working with Tim to make sure that our education programs are built in parallel and in partnership. And that, yes, we are going to be the threshold for higher education in northern New Mexico. That's the plan.
Great.
Any other questions?
I just want to say I'm thrilled about the proposal where we've ended up with entrepreneurship. I see that as a great location, and especially as I read that I never get it right, RFEI proposal, that one of the things mentioned and one of the things the mayor said to us when he came in and talked to the board earlier this year was higher education and industry and housing were three of the things that community members had prioritized in terms of land use for that project. So it's exciting that you can have potentially media arts and other innovative kinds of industries right next door, and the ability for students to see that technology come about and develop their own businesses based on that technology.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? You were going to tell us a little bit about the HEC partners. Have you kind of
Sure.
covered that? I think we haven't covered Bellevue at all, but
So I'll just run through this really quick. So anyway, we are having an advisor summit with UNM in November. We're taking a delegation, Tammy Duran, who's the director of advising. We're taking a whole bunch of folks to UNM in November. We're going to work on articulations for 5 programs that we've identified that should be pretty easy to iron out.
Which are those 5?
That's biology, physics, early childhood, ceramics, nursing, which we already have ironed out, and oils. The oils program is Organization, Information, and Learning Sciences.
Oils.
OILS, Organization, Information, and Learning Sciences. And this is a really wonderful degree from UNM because it's based around taking these terminal associate's degrees and providing pathways for students to accomplish a bachelor's degree. And so this particular program I'm super, super, super excited about because it really does provide some opportunity for our students. What I find with our students is they often, they'll get into a terminal degree and then they say, oh, and I've got my AA and now I'm ready to go get my bachelor's, and then they get discouraged because there's stuff that they have to pick up along the way to complete a bachelor's degree. The OILS programming is specifically designed to take anything that they take out of their technical degree and just add some sort of managerial skills around that so that they can have a bachelor's degree and go into HR, go into training, go into a lot of different areas. So it's a really exciting opportunity.
Well, give us the acronym again.
It's OILS, Organization, Information, and Learning Sciences.
Learning science, okay.
Okay.
Right. Anything else?
And so we're super excited about this, and what we're planning on doing is the first half is in November. In February 2020, UNM will come to SFCC or the HEC. We'll finalize our action plan that we come up with in November, but we're also going to institutionalize an annual exchange of people and ideas so that we don't lose track of our conversation with UNM and we keep the path of conversation going so that we don't end up in these silos where UNM doesn't want to talk to us or we forget to ask. Okay, now moving on to partners. Highlands just brought in a new student support person. So Mary Angel's the former registrar of SFUAD, and she's the new student support specialist. They have reduced their room usage by 2 classrooms, and they've estimated, they wouldn't give me their hard numbers, but they estimated their enrollment's down 10% at HEC this year. Bellevue recruited their first student, which is very exciting. And we have a grand opening scheduled for October 17th, and their president, Mary B. Hawkins, will be joining us.
So we should put that on our schedules.
We will.
Calendars.
I will send you the invitation.
Yeah.
And they recruited their first student from us?
From Santa Fe Community College. One of our graduates.
And what kind of classes will they be offering?
So they have over 50 online programs. So they don't offer any live classes at the Higher Education Center. They really are just plugging online programs. And I think Bellevue, again, is still trying to get traction in the community and figure out where they can best serve students. So Northern does have the 1 faculty member coming, and we have 3 getting to know you events with Northern and SFCC faculty scheduled for November.
Okay,
And
great. I
Wow.
think we've sort of overdone our welcome here, but
They've done so much work.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That was really instructive, and I think it's useful for us to have an opportunity to exchange with you because it's better than just getting a report. 'Cause a
thank you
report
for this
kind of
conversation. I
falls back.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I do think we need to talk more about what we really want the HEC to do. I mean, this innovation,
And the Midtown Campus.
this innovation thing on the
Right,
Midtown
right.
campus sounds great, but I don't remember us talking much about this.
Part of the creation of this opportunity, it sort of kind of snuck up on us. And so I brought it up in executive team shortly before Dr. Rowley joined us. And I think it was like her first executive team meeting that I brought it to the table and said, we should really jump on this bandwagon. So it has kind of come together and coalesced pretty rapidly, and I don't know that we've had that opportunity
Right.
to
And I think
conversation.
that's a great thing because so many good ideas come from that kind of.
Absolutely.
That happens.
But it is exciting, and the collaborations and partnerships, the willingness for collaboration and partnership, I think, is the thing that I find the most exciting about the project.
That's great. And you're here.
Maybe we could request that Megan come back for the October meeting. And, yeah, given that this is going to be very tight timing, it would be nice for us to know sort of where you are in October, which would just be before final proposal would go in.
That would be good. It doesn't have to be this
Long.
This board. It could just be a report with your with the regular
board,
meeting.
yeah.
Wonderful. I'd love the opportunity. Thank you.
It's October 30th.
I'll be here.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for all your ideas and your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Have we done everything?
I think we've done everything.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All
So
right.
thank you so much, Megan.
Thank
It
you.
was a great conversation.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to call to order our regular board meeting. Welcome, everybody. Can I have a motion to adopt our agenda?
So
Madam
moved.
Chair, I move we adopt the agenda tonight. One change in the announcement of next board meetings, that we need to add October 30th, 2019 as our next board meeting.
Right, okay.
Did we leave that out?
We left it out.
Oh, dear.
All right, we have a second from Martha. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
In October what?
30th. Okay, public comments? You what?
Where's the
No? Okay. President's report.
Okay, thank you, Chair Siegel. Starting off, we will start with the Employee of the Month Award for August. The Pass It Forward Award was presented to Reina Varela from the POM staff, who was nominated by Doreen Jaramillo from Payroll. The Wowgram is going to be presented to Marianne Dean Fraunglass from the TATC, and she was nominated by Catherine Fox-Ellert, also from the TATC.
Is anybody here?
See anybody? Okay.
Great.
Okay, so this is from Marianne Dean. It is an honor to receive the WOW Award and to have been nominated by one of my SFCC colleagues, Catherine Fox-Ellert, who exemplifies what I see as the most important point in serving our community. That is to be active in building a community among the faculty and staff that fosters the teamwork necessary to provide SFCC students with excellence in our programming and customer service to reach out and respond to student needs and the campus needs as a whole. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so on to the main report. The first thing that I want to mention, this is not included in your packet, so we have had unofficial word that I don't think has been officially confirmed yet, but that we did receive our Title V grant that we applied for. We submitted on July 15th. This is for $3 million over 5 years, so it's a really significant grant, and this will provide money and opportunities for improvements in student support services, allow us to finish work on our guided pathways project, and also provide professional development opportunities for faculty. So I want to really thank everybody who worked on that, especially the OP staff and Yash Morimoto, but I know that there were a lot of people that had a lot of input into this grant.
Well,
Yeah, this is big. So under accreditation, we have 12 groups who are working on specific challenges that have been identified in the AQUIP Systems Appraisal Feedback Report, and each one of those groups has created an action plan with specific steps to address the identified challenge. So this will get us in good shape for our mock visits that we're going to have coming up. And these groups are reporting on their action plans to the executive team on a bi-monthly basis, and they're all making good reports based on the recent reporting. The practice site visit has been scheduled for October 21st and 22nd, and so we'll have an experienced peer reviewer come on campus to put us through our paces and see how we do. The strategic planning process will kick off priorities on how to best serve students in our community, and we will be doing that as part of our annual professional development day in October. Under student engagement and success, the class of 2015 alumnus Brendan Barrett is a recipient of the $15,000 2019 Wingate Fellowship from the Center for Craft. And this award is based on an artistic merit and potential to make significant contributions to the field of craft. The engineer and computer science student Sarah Langtock has been selected to attend the NASA Community College Aerospace Scholar On-Site Experience at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. This was at the end of September. And this summer, she participated in an intensive five-week online activity. On September the 11th, the Santa Fe Reporter highlighted the adult education's programs on English as a second language and also high school equivalency and adult continuing education. On October 26th, Santa Fe Community College, the Financial Aid Office, the Santa Fe Higher Education Center, and the New Mexico Education Assistance Foundation will host the FAFSA Rodeo, and Megan told you a little bit about that. But the goal is to increase FAFSA completion across New Mexico by 10%. Local high schools will compete to demonstrate the largest growth in FAFSA completion. The winning school will receive a cash prize from NMEAF and a FAFSA ROFA trophy buckle, which is a real rodeo prize, and donated by SFCC's Media Arts Department. So we're also providing laptops and, for door prizes and everything. Moving on, the faculty and staff joined me at the Governor's Higher Education Summit on September 18th. Governor Lujan Grisham provided the keynote address, and I served as a panelist for the discussion on future directions for New Mexico higher education.
And you did a great job on
Well,
that.
thank you. Never know what you're going to, even though we had the questions beforehand, you never know how that's going to go. The Santa Fe Community College Culinary Arts graduate and New Mexico State University student Cordell Pacheco was featured in the Las Cruces Sun news story, HRTM student explores fine wine and food industry in Italy. The Student Development Office hosted Fall Fest, a campus-wide luncheon on the main courtyard for students, faculty, and staff on September the 10th. I heard they had like 1,000 people or something. It's packed out there. Oh. On September 12th, the Santa Fe Higher Education Center partnered with the Council for International Relations to present Jacob Raisin, a former prisoner in Iran and now a global opinions columnist at the Washington Post. The Career Service Office is now offering extended hours for their walk-in clinics. Eastern New Mexico University, New Mexico State University, and UNM all scheduled visits to the main campus to provide information on transfers, scholarships, and more.
So what, do they have booths or something?
Yeah, they have tables set up, and so students can come in and get information and talk to somebody who can recruit them. The campus covered is open from 12 to 4 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And under faculty and staff, the Director of Recruitment and Dual Credit, Marcos Maez, has been appointed by the Mayor's Office to serve as a voting member on the City of Santa Fe Transit Authority Board, representing student and employee transportation needs.
Yay.
That's a big deal. You can vote. Faculty and staff representatives recently attended the Escala Hispanic Serving Institution's Faculty Summer Retreat, the only teaching workshop that focuses on increasing student success in Hispanic serving institutions through culturally relevant teaching. The summer retreat kicks off the Certificate of College Teaching and Learning in HSI's a 27-hour program designed by Escala. The faculty and staff who attended the program are Amna Nair, Sahej Khalsa, Steve Martinez, Andrea Archuleta, and Lucas Gonzalez. Academic advisor Jonathan Harrell and marketing and public relations executive assistant Roxanne Tapia performed in Teatro Paraguay, Poesia Viva, poetry performed of Word Over, All Walt Whitman, and Pablo Neruda in August and September. Under local and statewide bonds for the fitness center, the stucco renovations are to be completed by mid-October. We had to increase our scope. That is a very large ongoing project. For phase 2 renovations, an architectural engineering consultant has been selected and will be on board as soon as the purchase order has been issued. For the automotive technology center, Plan Operations and Management has hired Avoset as the building envelope commissioning agent. Greer Stafford and their consultants design documents, and CMR pricing will be available for review this month. And we're expected to start this fall and have completion of the project by the end of summer 2020. In the learning space and main campus, dust collection for the woodworking studios Molson Corbin Engineers has provided a matrix of information from potential vendors and equipment options for the welding lab upgrades. Spearshorn Architects and Tipton Engineering have finalized a schematic design which provides the basis for cost estimates. And then we also have work going on with parking lots, energy improvements. The adult education area will be getting new carpet, which I know they're happy about. Plant Operations and Management Office renovation project, which is funded from multiple sources, will issue an RFP in September, and they will work with procurement to present a contract to the governing board in October. The wastewater treatment plant upgrades that are related to the Ranchlands agreement to transfer SFCC waste to Ranchlands Utility was presented for approval to the Higher Education Capital Projects Committee on September 11th. And the construction for that is slated for spring of 2020. And we will also have some roofing work that hopefully will start in the spring. Under community engagement, the Continuing Education Office held a great open house on September the 5th, and most of their faculty came out for that. The School of Fitness Education hosted a tennis tournament September 6th through 8th at the Fitness Center. The Visual Arts Gallery held an opening reception on September 13th for the exhibit Odd Nature, curated by Karina Heen, the Visual Arts Chair at the New Mexico School for the Arts. This continues through October 10th. On September the 28th, the Art on Campus Action Committee and the School of Arts, Design, and Media Arts will present 100,000 Poets for Change, an international poetry reading event as part of the college's partnership with Meow Wolf and the exhibit Ethel the Whale. The Santa Fe Reporter published several articles on Santa Fe Community College. So we've been getting some really great publicity lately. And as Megan mentioned to you, we have been working with master developers on our Midtown Campus plans. And I will add to what she said more about how right now all plans are very conceptual in nature. And so there really aren't details right now. And I think that we're deliberately getting our plan in with the ability to make changes as we need to. But what we were looking for too is our niche and what we can bring to the Midtown Campus that is currently not in other proposals at the Midtown Campus, and that would be a logical expansion for us and not just taking something that we already would do exactly like we're doing here and just move it over there. Under collective bargaining, the Labor Management Relations Board will meet on October the 11th. The college currently has 33 job openings posted online. For upcoming events on September the 28th, we will have the 100,000 Poets for Change. And through October 10th, the Visual Arts Gallery will keep the exhibit Odd Nature. On October the 14th, the Spirit of Writing, Art, and Social Justice Collective, a student group, and the SFCC Library will host an Indigenous Peoples Day reading. On October the 17th, the Santa Fe Literary Review reception and gallery opening will occur. On the 18th is our Employee Professional Development Day, and the college is closed, and we will be working really hard on our strategic plan. On the 21st to 22nd, the practice site visit. On October the 30th, the Learning Center District Board and Governing Board joint meetings will occur. And on the 31st, the Halloween extravaganza, which is a free and safe trick-or-treating produced by the Office of Student Development. November 5th is Election Day, and we have 2 governing board positions that will be open on that day. And then on the February 17th through 18th, 2020 is our official Higher Learning Commission's accreditation site visit. So that is my report, and I will be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Right.
So when you're talking about the Escala program, I noticed that all the faculty and staff who attended are ethnic minorities. Are they the only ones who don't know about diversity? It seems that we should have some other folks involved as well.
I think the group that was targeted for that was the President's Diversity Advisory Council, and so that group is quite diverse. But there are representatives from all backgrounds of any kind. I think this was more a matter of timing since it was a summer project, and the folks that were mentioned there are very active in the professional development arm of PDAC and actually are working hard on some of the other programs that we're going to be doing through PDAC. So, no, I don't want you to think that that group is restricted or anything like that. It's very open.
Well, I hope that this group will offer some kind of expansion or workshop or something for people who weren't able to attend and who could actually think about how their curriculum might be expanded across the board.
There is an event scheduled in October that is they have another professional development thing that we just scheduled, but that is open to all faculty and staff who are interested. Yash, do you have more detail? I read the flyer, but I guess I didn't memorize it.
Madam Chair, members of the board, it's my pleasure to announce that we are going to be doing an equity workshop, two of them actually this week. So tomorrow there will be a webinar where all of our faculty members and staff members are welcome to attend. Multiple invitation was sent out both by the Faculty Senate, the President, myself, the Deans, Vice President Peters to encourage people to participate. And then there will be a face-to-face training for our staff and faculty on Friday. And so we're hoping that as many people participate in both of those sessions on equity.
Are those
do
volunteer?
people register? Or,
Yes, people register, and it's actually something we're paying through the Perkins funding.
So how's the registration looking?
It's pretty full for the staff. As I understand, some of the faculty members may have not understood that they need to register first. So I've heard people that they're planning to go, but they didn't necessarily do the registration process. So I'm hoping that it's actually getting bigger, especially since we did an announcement again today, and I'm hoping people will do another announcement tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enrollment report. This excellent enrollment report.
Good evening. Thank you for having us this afternoon. I'm super excited. Chair Siegel, members of the board, colleagues, because it is a great day to be at Santa Fe Community College, right? We are really working hard to make such a difference and have such an impact for all of our students. And what we're doing is a holistic outreach approach to targeted populations. We're working across campus with each other and having conversations and looking at where we're at, where we are, and where we want to be. And because of this, and through all of the efforts of many, many people, many hours, many phone calls, text messages, and emails, you have before you a very beautiful enrollment report that shows that we are only down per this time last year 0.02%. It's not even a
Whoa.
But if you also look at it, you will see that we are up 0.79% compared to the end of term last fall. That is huge. Mm-hmm. That's a round of applause. Because that's really big. Because this is end of term numbers that we're looking at. And what we've been discussing about is that we still have 11 weeks left of the fall semester. We are not done with our enrollments. We are still working with students who are being admitted now for the fall semester. There are a number of short-term courses that students can still enroll in, and those are students who we're working with.
Wow.
We're being a little bit more proactive with them. And we're also working with them to see if we need to move them into the spring semester and how we could better prepare them for the spring semester. I think it's also important to know, if you've heard the news lately, that our colleagues around the state are not probably experiencing such success, and they're being challenged just a little bit, and we want to encourage them to really work to get to where we're at today. But UNM has just reported that they're down 6.5%. NMSU has not officially reported, but we understand that they're not going to be up as well. New Mexico Highlands University, unfortunately, has reported that they are down 8.8%. Northern is up slightly, and Luna has reported that they are up slightly. So we're really excited that there's some momentum going on in higher education across the state, and we are definitely working and continually will be working to help with our enrollment numbers, which will impact our graduation numbers and which will impact our retention numbers. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to our colleague, Marcos.
Thank you very much, Thomasina. Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam President. So other good news that I'm just very happy to share with you all. I ran the dual credit report right before this meeting, about an hour before. And I am proud to report that we have 861 registered dual credit students as of 4 o'clock today. Good. I called staff from the Office of Planning Institutional Effectiveness to make sure that this was correct. And it was verified. 861, that is the largest dual credit class that we have ever had in the history of Santa Fe Community College.
Wow.
With a bullet, because we are still registering classes. We have 5 more classes being taught on the high school campuses that we need to have registered. So we are keeping our fingers crossed that we can get to that 900 student mark. So we're very excited about that.
Give us an example of some of those classes.
I'd love to. So there's 55 dual credit cohort classes being taught on the high school campus, and they range from a variety of things. For example, Capitol High School has great health classes, including the
LPN?
Exactly, the LPN, but also the nurse aid classes. We also have phlebotomy classes over at Raton High School. We have Santa Fe Indian School that has pathways in medical terminology, nurse aid. We also have media arts classes that are taught at both Santa Fe High School and Capitol High School. So that would be our film classes. At Early College Opportunities High School, that's welding, greenhouse management, that's building construction classes, trades mathematics. There's just a wide variety of classes, including computer science and other classes that are being taught at the high school campuses. So we are just so thankful to our dual credit staff, obviously, because we're a very, very small staff, but also to Welcome and Advising Center. A big shout out to our data tech there, Marvin Gabaldon, who helps push students' applications through as quickly as he possibly can to ensure that we can register as many students as possible. But on top of that, our deans, our associate deans, our vice president for academic and student success, student affairs. This does not happen without so many of these folks involved in this process to make sure that these classes get created. So
Right.
It's just really, really awesome that the fact that we may have 900 dual credit students taking classes through SFCC. Also want to point out that collaboration, one of the reasons why we are seeing these numbers is recruitment, retention. They are working together, and it is a beautiful thing. What Thomasina has been very, very kind enough to tell me, and I'm very, very happy to share this, is that the next time that we are out there doing dual credit applications and trying to get as many students to apply as possible, Thomasina has volunteered to actually have a couple of staff join us. And actually, as students are applying, we can have our data tech with a laptop just automatically registering and enrolling students right through the process so they get their A numbers right then and there. That's also really exciting. Also, for our Ticket to College workshops that will be resuming now in October, and that is the AccuPlacer testing and the financial aid workshops, she's also willing to have staff from advising go as well. So it would look like this. Students take the AccuPlacer in the morning. Students then get their test results. They will then sit with somebody in advising, and the advisor will then explain to them not only what these test results mean, but also here's some pathways that we can start you with right now based on what you have performed in these tests. And then to top it off, they get fed lunch, and they finish off the day applying for their financial aid. So it is just really, really cool that it's the whole college working together as this big united front, not only to get students into SFCC and to get them college ready, but we also need to remember that we need to be student ready, and we have to meet our student needs. And it's just very exciting that we just have a team of folks that want to do that and are just as excited to do that. There's also a few events coming up really quickly. This Friday, Santa Fe High School and St. Mike's are going to be facing each other in a big crosstown rivalry. SFCC will be there, so come on out, come say hello. We are giving away a lot of swag to a lot of people. Let's see, what else are we looking at? During the month of September, SFCC's recruitment staff visited over 15 high schools, and that's high schools in Albuquerque, Moriarty, Las Vegas, New Mexico, Rio Rancho, Bernalillo, Pecos, and of course, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Let's see here. We also have consistently visited the Southside Libraries, the Chavez Center, and of course, our standing weekly visits to Capitol High School and Santa Fe High School. And let's see here. On the week of October 7th, SFCC will once again be partnering with EarthCare, where we will be doing a Southside admissions and financial aid workshop session in the evening for our Southside residents over at Zona del Sol, which is the Boys and Girls Club, which is right next to the Southside Library. So we're excited about that. And also on October 25th, SFCC recruitment and dual credit staff will be partnering with the SFCC Automotive Program to have at Capitol High School the Battle Under the Hood. What that means is there will be 3 cars that will be on the Capitol High School campus. All 3 of these cars will have some type of automotive glitch. Students who are interested in participating at Capitol High School will get to actually go under the hood and get to find out how can they fix these problems. May the best team win. We want to continue that not only with automotive. If this is a success, we want to explore that with many other programs that we can bring to the high schools to have those hands-on activities. That is all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I have a question.
That's great, yes.
Marcos, those, how many, 851, 61?
861 board.
861 dual credit. What is the breakdown in terms of where are they in high school? Are they juniors, seniors?
Thank you very much, Board Member Gamble, Madam Chair. The majority of those high school students are going to be either juniors and seniors. The master's program, though, which is our early college charter high school here at the campus, they actually have a new freshman class that came in, and they are also starting to take college classes, and those are our first-year experience classes that they're taking. But for the most part, you're going to see the vast majority are either juniors or seniors.
Yeah, Martha.
When you say we're still registering students, are those for classes that are about to begin, or are those for classes that are already ongoing?
Thank you very much, Board Member Romero. So, Madam Chair, these are classes that are already happening that started actually at the beginning of the year. But again, the process, it's just a beast. Part of it is not only getting them to apply and actually get them officially in our system with an A number, but the other part of that too is making sure that the student fills out the dual credit registration form, and we provide them with that form already. So I'll send a form to all the different high school partners, the principals, the counselors, with the classes already entered in there. So all they have to do is write in their general information and get it signed by their high school counselor. The student themselves signs it, and a parent or guardian. It's a lot harder than it sounds, because what we have found out is that we give those students the forms, and they're high school students. We keep on pressuring and pressing the counselors and the principals to, hey, where are those forms? We need those forms. We need them signed, because in order to register those students, we have to have those forms, and then our dual credit specialist and the dual credit team will then use those forms to officially hand key in and register those students.
So are those students already attending the classes?
They are indeed, Board Member Romero.
Okay, so it's not an issue of they've lost half of semester already?
Not at all.
Great.
If I may add, that's when we started discussing these challenges that Marcos was facing, we decided that we needed to create a one-stop shop, an on-the-go one-stop shop for these students and for their families. It's a challenge to get everyone in one room at one time, and we don't want them to have to experience another step, another barrier. So we're going to create this team, and as they go out on the road and they go to the various high schools, we're going to make sure that all of their resources are available to them at that one location. While we'll continue to encourage them to learn the process while they're a student here at SFCC. We don't want to create that barrier in the front end, so we'll take care of that for them. And I think that'll be a little bit of help, and that way next year we'll have these students registered and official in the system beforehand.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
That form is a state form, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, yes, Madam President, it is indeed.
And is it available on your smartphone?
The Board Member Gamble, the dual credit form?
Yeah.
I mean, you are more than welcome to access this and open it on your smartphone.
No, I mean for the students.
The students can open it on their phone, but no, they have to
can't.
physically give us an actual hard copy with all the signatures so that our office can then put them in our binders. So in case that day ever comes where PED wants to see what we're doing, we have everything ready for them. Board Member Gamble, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you and
Thank you very
congratulations
much.
for all your hard work
Great.
Yes.
and turning that curve around, which we've been waiting to see for a long time.
Yes, that's great.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. AUP. Thank you for coming to give us an update.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Governing Board, President Rowley, Ian.
You're so far away.
No.
Hi, Ian. I'm pleased to be here this evening. I'm really excited, actually, at the opportunity to sit with you guys for a second and just sort of report what's going on. The first thing that I would say is that we're really pleased to be working with President Rowley. There does appear to be a desire on her part and on administration's part as well. We think with her leadership, it's a nice thing to have administration wanting to work with us because we know we certainly want to work with them. And so we feel like this is a really positive development in our relationship, and many feel that it marks a shift in our relationship as well. And so we're looking into the future hopeful, and we're feeling really good. And so that's something that you should know is that the faculty are feeling a lot of goodwill and feeling, yeah. The second thing that I would say here, as just a sort of concrete effort that we're making, is that we're beginning to work on establishing clear lines of communication with the college on behalf of the union. And how that happens exactly, it does take some working out, and it's new for everybody. And so I wouldn't say that we've got it all figured out at all, but I think that there's some really good movement starting on that front. We're hoping to find ways to interact in mutually and productive ways as we engage in our work together, because that is what faculty ultimately really wanted when they sought to unionize. They wanted a mutual relationship where we could respectfully partner with one another and come from a place of appreciation for each other and the work that we are all doing together ultimately for students. And so one very concrete thing that President Rowley actually mentioned earlier is that we were finally able to get our first faculty management committee meeting. It's kind of like a meet and discuss forum to come together, talk about issues. We're working out how often that's going to be, and what things go to that committee, what things can we solve on the ground as they're happening. As you all know, our collective bargaining agreement, the whole purpose is to keep efficient, productive relationships between us and remain harmonious so that the services to our constituents are not interrupted. And our primary responsibility really are the services that we provide to the students. And so we really do see that as one of the things that this collective bargaining agreement can help with. And also this committee is a good place to start with concrete. And I mean, I guess kind of in a global way, our goal is to keep our lines of communication open and clear so that we can help keep quality for students sharply in our focus. Because as we've often said, the learning conditions for the students are also our working conditions. And learning is a relationship that really does happen between you and me. And so between the students and the faculty, and so, yeah. The third thing that I will report is that our union officers are term limited. They're 2-year limits. And I can't believe it, but I have come to the end of my 2-year term. And so has we've got our treasurer is turning over, and so is our communications director. And those 3 officers have been filled, and their terms will start on November the 1st. And then my role as president, I'll become an ex officio member of the union to help make that transition smooth so that I'm there. I really do have a lot of information that's just in my head that they don't know because it was so intense. It was like drinking through a fire hose, as you guys know too. So there's a lot going on. And so to help make sure that that transition is smooth and that we can mentor these guys into their roles in positive and productive ways.
Can you tell us who they are?
Yes. We've got Stephen DiGiulio is going to be our new union president. Michael McKittrick has stepped up as our treasurer, and he's awesome. He's already helping us drop a budget and like all these things. It's fantastic. And then Kate McCahill will become our communications director. And Michael McKittrick is taking Laura Rosenfeld's place as treasurer, and Kate McCahill is taking Bethany Carson's place as communications director. So, yeah. And then the last thing we would like to do is actually just really thank our team. President Rowley and Mariposa Savage, I hope I am pronouncing her name correctly, were just really helpful in getting our dues deduction started through the college. Is going to automatically deduct union dues from our paychecks. And that took some doing, and we need to acknowledge everybody who had a role in that, in payroll, and it did take an effort, and so we want to say thank you. And it culminated in our securing a solid 63% majority of our bargaining unit members paying dues, which marks them as which marks them as voting members of the union. So, yeah.
And how many people is that?
Total of the bargaining unit is 64. There's 64.
Dues paying?
63% of 64 is something mathematical. I think it's 50. I think it's 50 people.
Sounds about right.
I think that's about right. Okay. I really do think it was 50.
Okay.
And it was 62.5%.
To be exact.
To be exact.
So the bargaining unit is 63, you said?
64.
64 people and 50 are dues paying.
It grew this semester because we had some people, as you guys know, first year probation, once they get through their first year, and then once they're in that second year, they become bargaining unit members. So we got some new members this fall.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a bunch of them were over in nursing. Yeah. So,
Any questions?
I stand for questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having
I'd
me.
like to have you or your president come back
Sure.
periodically. And
Yeah, we're happy to. Yeah.
Maybe just one question. How will in terms of communication, how will the AAUP and the faculty senate, will they communicate, or?
You know, That is something that I think is a complexity. The union is a separate body from the Senate. And the Senate, as you know, is part of the shared governance system.
Right.
And while we often share interests, our interests do diverge at times because the Senate, as you know, has to represent the entire group of people who teach here. So that really is adjuncts, first-year probation, temporary faculty. And how do we communicate is actually what you asked. We have a standing report at the Faculty Senate. The Faculty Senate voted that they wanted to always be in the loop for what was going on, and so we try to share information. Does that answer your question?
Sort of.
I can keep clarifying if.
Indeed, I think it is complicated, and you of course refer to divergent interests. Common interests are pretty understandable, and
Right.
Probably the majority of issues are common issues, common concerns. Divergent ones are kind of interesting in terms of how do you, number one, share them and begin to presumably resolve them, or
You know, we haven't had any true,
Right,
like,
certainly.
diverging.
right. I'm assuming that over time,
There could be.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the Senate is truly steeped in the tradition of academia, and so they're going to be very interested in faculty's voice and governance issues that have to do with the academic side of the house, like our degrees and academic freedom, you know, different items that sort of go with the academics. Whereas the union is really more, and these are broad brushstrokes, about our conditions, so our pay, our hours, our things that really do sort of spell out the nature of our work itself. And so, and where those overlap might be something like, you know, I know that the CBA asks us to post grades, and in consultation with faculty, we're going to figure out how, with the administration, to do that. But that's an academic thing, and that has to do with methodologies that are happening in the classroom. So that might be a place where the Senate really will be interested in what's happening. And so we will need to work closely together, and I really do think it's to the benefit of everybody if the Senate and the union try to collaborate as much as possible, actually. So, yeah. Yeah. Anything
you.
else? Yep. And I think that this is something we can keep working on, the different roles, because it does have complexity. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's new to us all.
It really is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Zuby is not here, and there's nobody else for the Faculty Senate? Okay. Staff Senate?
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Rowley. Brief report. Basically, the committee was very interested to hear about our report to you last month, the Senate. A little bit of discussion in the meeting about professional development and how we can improve opportunities here and systematize some of the things that we should be doing, and that's included in the minutes. We had a very productive discussion at Shared Governance Council with President Rowley and the Faculty Senate around a lot of the HR stuff that is swirling a bit, and we were very grateful for that opportunity. And we're happy to say that President Rowley is coming to Staff Senate tomorrow. I don't know if she's had a chance to see the questions. There's at least one very weird question.
I have not.
You might preview those. The first one's a little strange. And, I think everybody is really excited to have a conversation with you. So I will stand for questions.
Anybody? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, student government. Our new president.
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Rowley, thank you. Had another busy month. So September 10th was Fall Fest, like Dr. Rowley had mentioned. Student government, student ambassadors, leadership classes, freedom ambassadors, National Society of Leadership and Success, representatives and volunteers helped set up, work, and tear down for the event. We could not have done it without them, so thank you to all those groups and organizations. We had about 900 attendees, 400 were students, 300 were employees, and 900 free plates of food were provided. The event was also a club showcase, as clubs got to rent tables and showcase their clubs. Organizations, businesses, SFCC departments like OIT, financial aid, and the library, just to name a few, were also on showcase to make sure students were aware of these resources. All of the organizations handed out items of swag to promote student leadership programs and to bring awareness for those programs as well. And we could not help Palm enough for the setup as well. They helped us set up the little tents and stuff like that. So big thank you to Palm. September 11th, student government, we had our first meeting here in the boardroom. We explained the new structure of the student government. Mandatory advising of policy 2-25 was presented to the student government and approved. Changes to the clubs and organizations were addressed by Mary Elias, the student involvement coordinator. Student government voted to move their meetings from the second Wednesday of the month to the second Friday of the month, as this will allow more students to come to student government meetings because there are hardly any classes scheduled on Fridays, and clubs are very pleased to hear this news, so that's awesome. And also, thank you to our student leaders to come out and support student government in its first official meeting of the year. September 17th was Constitution Day, where Dr. Steve Martinez helped share his knowledge about the history of the United States Constitution with students. Wonderful conversation sparked between students engaging on how the United States has changed and if it's really changed at all. We had 50 attendees attend this event, and we handed out sandwiches and chips and salsa. The event was comprised of students from student government, student ambassadors, and leadership classes. There were 10 students outside of leadership programs. We really want to work with faculty on how we can work together and collectively collaborate, on how we can work with faculty on bringing their classes to these types of events, as they're very important. Constitution Day is a federal mandate, and we should work together on how we have all. I'm sorry. Yeah, Constitution Day is a federal mandate, so we should work together on how we can increase the student awareness and involvement in those types of events. An upcoming event, like Dr. Ali had said, October 31st is Halloween. Student ambassadors have worked very hard on planning the event. All-day events include an office decorating contest, a kids campus parade, a costume contest, safe trick-or-treat where 3,500 people are estimated to attend. Your department can reserve a table through the Office of Student Development. We also will be doing a haunted house, cookie walk, kids carnival, dancing, and DWI awareness. Yes. National Society of Leadership and Success held a combo day on September 21st. Combo day included everything that is needed to get done before getting inducted to NSLS, like leadership training, observing speaker broadcasts, and success team meetings. And I'm happy to announce that I am also going to be joining the NSLS as a member, so that's exciting. An induction to NSLS will be held in April. Clubs and organizations are in the middle of their orientations. OSD, Office of Student Development, has been working on an online orientation, and we are happy to announce that club orientation is now online for clubs. So they're very happy about that as well. Office of Student Development has the following. We have 52 Freedom Ambassadors, 36 Student Ambassadors, 25 daytime leadership students and 21 evening leadership students. And student government, we have a new senator, Rachel Ward. She is the senator for the School of Liberal Arts. And we are working on getting a new senator for the School of Trades and Advanced Technologies, and we should have one by next week. And that is it on my end, and I'll stand for questions.
Wow, you all are busy. How do you go to
Great.
class?
Very carefully, you have to schedule yourself.
Really?
Ian, what is MLFS?
MLFS? NSLS. It's National Society of Leadership and Success.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, and Ian, we are about to enter into the phase of our strategic plan and thinking, broadly about the college and how we move forward. And clearly we have a focus on student success. So we want to make sure more students come to Santa Fe Community College, feel comfortable here, and complete classes and complete degrees. And I would love to challenge you and maybe the president too about how we make sure that our student leaders have a voice in that process. So, more than I think in the past, we've engaged by doing questionnaires with students and getting their input that way, but really looking at what role our student leaders play in helping students find Santa Fe Community College and being more successful while they're here.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And I've been talking to Julia Gallegos about possibly bringing some student ambassadors, student government, some student leaders to Professional Development Day to help with the event. So that would be great. Yeah. So thank you.
I'm so happy to hear that. I think it's really important to have our student voice.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Maybe not just to help, but to participate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For the student voice. We need it.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, how about a motion to approve the consent agenda, which has the work session and a regular meeting minutes on it.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, what are the matters related to SFCC?
Well, there aren't any, are there? No policy issues.
Okay, all right,
I think that's just a placeholder.
okay.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, we're on to our action items. And the first one is the Vice President of Finance.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, President Rowley. In front of you, you have the financial management discussion and analysis as of August 31st of this year. In this report, you'll see that at the end of August, we had an operating bank cash balance of $8.6 million. That's about $2.9 million of an increase to the prior year. Tuition and fees revenue is down 6%, down by $219,000. Local mill levy appropriations revenue was totaling out to be $159,000, and that's up about $32,000 to last year. State appropriations revenue is $2.1 million, and that has increased by about 22% and an amount of $373,000. Total ING revenues are up by $193,000 to last year. On the expense side, expenses are up by $867,000, and that's up 19%, totaling out to be $5.4 million to last August.
And you explained that was because of some prepaid.
Yes, Madam
bills.
Chair, that's a large increase because of timing issues on insurance payments for property liability, where we posted it this month, this year, and I think we posted it in September of last year. So it'll all even out, basically. There's also another issue related to internal services and timing of posting expenses. So it's pretty common in the early part of a fiscal year for those things to take place. With that, if you look at compensation, compensation's up by 8%, or nearly $300,000, totaling out $4.3 million. And supplies, expense, equipment, utilities are up by what the report shows is 108%, but again, that's because of the issues that I just mentioned there. With that, that's basically a summary of the report. If you have any questions, I can stand to answer them.
Questions?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything
Yep.
in the work session.
All righty. Can we have a motion to approve the financials for August?
I would so move.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. President's goals. I believe you have those. The board had a retreat. How long ago was it?
A month ago?
Yeah, not too long ago, where we talked a lot about, based on our prior retreat from about 8 months ago, 8 months before this retreat, and we really wanted to work with our new president to develop some goals. That's part of our contractual relationship with her. And we talked about these issues, and she put these together. Do you want to say anything about them?
Yes, thank you, Chair Siegel. So most of these are kind of broad goals that have a lot to do with some kind of changes in focus that are sort of cultural issues. And the strategies to achieve those goals are some of the things that we specifically talked about in terms of things that you'd like to see accomplished at the college. Some of these things have already been started, and we're working on them, and we've been working on them. And so those will be continued. And so really with, I think, the addition of a change, fixing a typo, and I will incorporate Member Sullivan's comment about adding the words internal and external to the very last strategy to kind of tweak that a little bit, that these are the things that we'll be working on.
Any comments from board members?
I'm excited
Yes.
about the goals in the year in front of us.
Right. Even though you won't be here to share it with us.
I'll always be here.
That's true.
We'll listen to the recording.
No, you won't. All right, could we have a motion to approve these?
I move approval of president's goals for the next year.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, then we have the approval of the reappointment of the two people that have been on the board, on the Labor Management Board. And Holly, can someone help me how to say her last name?
She,
Akajanian?
yeah.
Akajanian. Holly Akajanian, who's the management rep, and Justin Kaufman, who's the union rep. So could we have a motion to approve those two for a new term?
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And now we have the degrees. Approval of degrees and certificates per the new state approval process. This is a new approval process?
Yes. Chair Siegel, members of the board, President Rowley, this is I guess sort of a revised approval process, if you will, and so they have added this step to the process that HED has. And so these degrees and certificates come to the boards for board approval in advance of the process of getting a SIP code.
Of getting a what?
SIP code.
SIP code.
Which is that little code that goes next to these degrees and certificates in our catalog. So what you have before you is the Associate in Arts, Liberal Arts, and as I mentioned in the work session, this really is taking the place of our Associate in Arts and General Studies. Board Member Romero, you mentioned that we needed to look at adding
to our program learning outcomes, revising those to include something about citizenship and cultural appreciation, which we absolutely will do. Then you have the Associate in Science and Pre-Forestry, and this was created in collaboration with New Mexico Highlands in an effort to articulate with their Bachelor of Science in Forestry. I believe it's in forestry, and they and it can, of course, articulate with other programs in either forestry, conservation management, or natural resource management.
And this one's totally brand new.
Yes, that's correct. And then the Certificate in Alcohol and Drug Abuse Counseling, this is the LADAC. It provides the academic requirements for becoming a licensed alcohol and drug abuse counselor in New Mexico. And then we have the Certificate in Documentary Filmmaking, which I believe also it embeds in our film degree, and so students who pursue this, who want to go on and get an associate in film, they can do that. The same with the Certificate in Spanish Language. I think that also embeds in our Spanish degree, and so students who want to go on can do that, and these credits count. The Associate in Applied Science and Water Technologies, and I just want to call to your attention again, it is 68 credits, which is high. We want everything to be 60 if possible. We have some that are 61, 62. We have some that are more than that due to requirements associated with accreditation for some programs. But we really try to get our degrees at 60 wherever possible. So the reason that you see 68 here is there are a couple of math classes included in the program requirements of this degree that once we have gone through the approval process, which is in process right now, for making those math classes gen ed requirements, to satisfy the gen ed requirements, then they will move into the gen ed area, and we will take the credits out of the gen ed area to allow space for them. The reason we're not able to do that right now and make adjustments, say, for example, in the program requirements, is these are the courses that are required in order to prepare the student to take the certification exam with the city that enables them to do this work.
That's it?
That's it.
Madam
Any
Chair.
questions?
Like there
Yes.
were more at the work session.
It did
Had
seem
too
like
much
that.
to talk about.
Madam Chair, can I ask a quick question about timing on the, how long does it take through our system, and what's the process of getting the math courses that are needed for the water technologies associates moved into the gen ed curriculum?
It's a process through HED, and it has to do with, the folks, the academic affairs folks across the state that are working in collaboration toward approving these various courses for the gen ed. And so I think the timeline varies, and so I'm not going to be able to tell you definitely how long it takes, but it has so far moved along in at a fairly decent pace. And so our hope is that it will happen reasonably quickly. It's not going to be like months and ages, so but it's not a day either, right? It's not a day. Right. Sure, absolutely. And it's a group of folks, and they get together periodically and review this stuff, and then grant the approvals or not.
And I think my concern there is the student in the end, right? So does it happen quick enough so we don't end up with students who are taking 68 to get the degree, and then 6 months later the requirement drops? Or can we start moving them along in those math classes now? And if they're accepted into the degree program, they'll automatically use those as gen ed math classes.
That's what'll happen.
Okay.
We should absolutely get the approvals, assuming we get the approvals before students would ever finish the program.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So
What? Sorry.
approximately how many gen ed credits does someone need? I know it must vary on.
So if you look here you can look at any of these associates, and you'll see that the general education requirements are 32 credits minimum.
Minimum.
That's correct. Yeah.
But the science ones are different, the applied science.
Yes, the applied
Applied
degrees are
science
different,
are
that's
different.
correct.
Okay.
There's a little bit more flexibility in the applied degrees, but the HED mandates what happens in terms of the gen ed and the associate's degrees are not applied, the AAs and ASs.
So that applied science degree, how many gen ed courses would you normally have to have?
Let's see.
On top of your 68?
Sure. Oh, not on,
No, it's
not on
not on
top.
top.
No, that's
Oh, okay.
included in that number.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely
Okay, I
included in
thought,
that.
my
No, no, no,
God.
no, no, no. And so if you look at the AAS and water technologies, there's the gen ed requirements, 20 credits
Okay,
minimum.
okay,
There's just a little bit more flexibility because there are, students may need to head in this direction or that direction. It's not necessarily a transfer degree, and so it's a little different. Yeah.
George, did you?
How was it that these particular degrees were selected for updating? Why? Yeah.
So some of these are new. The Associates in Arts and Liberal Arts it's new in that it's an Associate in Arts and Liberal Arts, but it really is a revision and a replacement for our Associate in Arts and General Studies.
So those were updated because there were changes that needed to be made, or?
Yes, and as Shalimar Krebs mentioned in the work session, the Associate in Arts and Liberal Arts, it articulates a little better. We have a certificate in academic transfer, liberal arts, and so this aligns with that better and will transfer more seamlessly as an AA in liberal arts. And then there are, the pre-forestry is brand new, and so really the genesis of this was the collaboration with New Mexico Highlands, and that's kind of what got that conversation started. New Mexico Highlands folks were here on our campus. We had a kind of a big work session to talk about opportunities for collaboration and articulation agreements in particular, and this kind of grew out of that discussion, and so that's where that came from.
And the job demand is there?
Yes. Yes. Mine.
So is there some regular process for looking at what degrees we're offering and how well what the demand is for those degrees, and dropping some degrees and adding others?
Yes, Board Member Gamble, thank you for asking that question. So a couple of things that are important to know. We have a program review process, and that is on a 5-year cycle. And so the part of that process is looking at data and looking at number of students in the program, number of graduates, that sort of thing, and assessing, where the program is and what the graduation rates are and what the success rates are in the various classes associated with that degree, and really all of that range of items that we need to kind of talk about specifically and folks need to address in their program review information. So that's one way that we look at these. Another thing is when we have a brand new degree or certificate, if that contains a large number of new classes, we have a needs assessment process that folks go through, and so they really do examine potential job opportunities and, what the market looks like and, what kind of community partnerships, that kind of thing, to help us assess whether or not we have a need for that degree or certificate program. Then we have some that they're really kind of a packaging of courses that we already have, and they do, the certificates, for example, they will embed in an associate degree, so it makes sense to have a packaging of those courses that students can get a certificate, and that's a little baby step along the way to an AA should they decide, an associate's degree should they decide to get an associate's degree, whether that's AAAS, AAA, or AAS.
So where are we in that 5-year review?
So we have program review every single year. So
but just
some of them are each.
programs.
That's right.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Good, thank you.
absolutely.
All right. Can we have a motion to approve these degrees and certificates?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, let's see. Oh, here we have a matter of policy. That's procedure. Oh,
It's the
this is the
discussion.
policy. This is the discussion we had in the work session about.
And it's coming back to us?
See, okay. So it's an information item for our discussion. We did discuss the new procedures for internal controls, but we had a recommended change to the policy, which will come back to us in October, correct? Yes. Okay, great, all right. Board reports, discussion of the business, anybody?
Madam Chair,
Kathy?
I just wanted to, first of all, say how exciting it is that the governor has made a proposal and a big announcement about free tuition for college students. What a great impact that potentially will have on the college campus. And to recognize George Gamble on our board, who has been particularly passionate about that issue and worked very hard on it.
And I should tell you, I've been whispering in the governor's ear at meetings. I'm not sure if she ever heard me, but I was whispering.
There's clearly much work to be done on that policy moving forward, and it will move to the legislature, and the devil is in the details there, but really exciting that it is moving forward, and we're having a good state conversation about how we pay for tuition for our students to get more of them into higher education and through the higher education system. Secondly, I wanted to recognize President Rowley, who was named the chair of the Higher Education Advisory Committee for the state of New Mexico a couple of weeks ago. Again, you know, she's a great leader on our campus, but also a great leader for higher education in New Mexico.
Thank you, Kathy.
So I had a couple of things that I wanted to mention. First of all, Jack isn't here tonight, but he and I visited with the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Education, who was here visiting our campus because he had heard that Santa Fe Community College had such wonderful, innovative programs. And he came with his entourage, and they were very clear about informing us that this administration is very concerned about the debt that students are incurring, and how Secretary DeVos is really working hard to address that issue. So that was kind of an interesting conversation. They were very impressed with the college programs. Several of them, in fact, the two primary visitors, they also had a couple of staff people with them, other staff people with them, have had experience in higher education. So even though they are quite conservative, they are very knowledgeable about the community colleges, and they are apparently doing a tour of community colleges in key states in order to identify where community colleges are doing good work. So that was an interesting visit. Secondly, I had the privilege of attending Dr. Perry's symposium, and that was a very interesting, very useful, I think, for people who work with students, not just early childhood students, but people who work with students across the board, because one of his main premises is about trauma that students experience at various stages in their growing up years, and how much they are impacted, their brain is impacted by the experience of that trauma. And unless they resolve that trauma, they can't move forward. They can't move up into the higher functions of the brain. So that was a very, very interesting, very informative symposium, and I was really pleased. Thank you, President Rowley, for allowing us to attend that and making that possible.
And we were one of the sponsors, the early
Yes,
childhood.
yes. And yes, we were sponsors both for the Early Childhood Day and then also for they did a second day for,
Home visiting.
yeah, home visitors. And there were a lot of social workers who participated that second day in that conference.
And
So,
Lannell Foundation also was a sponsor.
yes, yes.
Thank you.
Many, actually, there were quite a few
Yeah.
sponsors. It was very, very interesting, very informative, and very helpful. So thank you, and thanks to the people from the Early Childhood Center, because I think they were very instrumental in bringing him on.
Dr. Jennifer Salee is
Yeah,
really the one that
Dr.
organized the
Salee.
whole thing, and
Right, yeah.
she's actually the one who saved you your spot, so.
Yeah.
She had a overcapacity crowd.
Yes, she did. So it was very well attended, and I think it was incredibly useful for our young students. But, so, that's what
Thank you. I attended on the second day, and I guess he gave the same kind of lecture, which
yeah,
was
the
so
first day he
good.
went much more, I think, into how the brain develops at various stages of life. But then he did a recap of that the second day before he got into how do homeworkers
Yeah.
help children through some of those traumas. So,
Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I have one more.
Okay.
I promise I'll be brief. I just wanted to, I know that the Staff Senate wrote in their minutes and talked a little bit at their meeting about the higher education, or the Public Education Department recently hosted a meeting on Perkins funding. So Perkins funding really supplies federal dollars that flow down to the state for technical training for students at both the high school level and at the community college level. And the purpose of the forum that was held was really a discussion by the state, who's taking new leadership in putting together programs and encouraging and maybe mandating collaborations between high schools and community colleges, which I think is a really positive thing, not only for our college, but for our state to be doing that. I think we've kind of set the bar in that in many ways, especially with our partnership with healthcare at Capitol High School, but now it will be much easier, I hope, to do when the funding sources are aligned to do that.
Great. I would like to request, since we're going to have a couple of new board members, that we start having at our board meetings, and I might have suggested this before, but I can't remember, that we start having more presentations by different parts of the school to educate our new members and remind the rest of us about all these wonderful programs that we have, what they're doing. And, you know, it can be...
That's an excellent idea.
It doesn't have to be an hour-long presentation, but, you know, 15 minutes time for questions so that we can really begin to let our new board members know what's going on and refresh our memories, too.
Start that next month.
Yeah, great.
And I suppose that could be, if we knew in advance who was going to come up at the next board meeting, maybe we would get an invitation to visit the department. In some departments, there's actually visit, there's something to visit other departments. Yeah,
Here's an empty classroom.
right. No, I'm thinking,
Like trades and technology.
right, trades and technology, even the Early Education Center.
bring your draft report and we'll critique it.
There's one.
Okay, we do have our next board meeting on the October 30th, and then we have our joint meeting with the foundation on the 4th. So, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Opposed.
Thank you all.
I thought that was going to go.
It's too early.